so you don't see my mess.
Hey, welcome to Facebook Live. We're also streaming live on YouTube simultaneously through the magic of the internet. This is, I guess, I don't know if we're at a dozen yet, but we've had quite a few Facebook Lives on Pro Stitcher, and it's been a pretty fun event. My name's Jen, and with us today is Mary Yoder. Hi, Mary.
Hello.
Mary, you are a Handy Quilter National educator, and you also have quite a bit of information on Pro Stitcher, and you also teach Pro Stitcher classes, right?
Yes, I do. Yep. One of my favorite things. Yep.
Would you say would you say there's more Pro Stitcher classes or more free motion long arm classes?
It seems like there's almost more interest in Pro Stitcher. I think that seems to be stronger than free motion.
And,
I would say more than half.
And where do you teach? Just regionally or globally or?
So I'll teach at different Handy Quilter events. I'm getting ready to go to Texas next week.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So I do quite a few events for Handy Quilter. It's a lot of fun.
It looks like we have some folks in the chat saying hello. If you're here, give us a shout out. We'll see. Maybe Mary has been to your part of town teaching. How long have you been? How long have you been an educator?
So I'm now in my 6th year.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay, that's exciting.
It is very exciting.
Very jet set.
Yes. And I see somebody from Arkansas, and I'm going to eventually be living there.
Oh, wow. From California?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yes.
And so I do ask this of, I think, most of the folks that come on. How long have you been quilting? If you want to ballpark it.
Them or me?
You.
Oh, me? I'm sorry. I thought you were asking them.
Oh, well, I mean, you're welcome to put in the comments how long each viewer has been quilting. That's fun too.
Okay, so I made my first quilt probably about 45 years ago out of polyester knit.
Nice.
I didn't even know what I was doing. I've been a serious quilter probably for about 10 years.
Okay.
Is what I've been doing. And then I did a lot of machine embroidery, tons of it. And so that's where, for me, I love Pro Stitcher, because to me, it's a big embroidery machine. And so
I can see that.
Yeah. Yep.
For sure. Gwenna was wondering what part of Arkansas.
Bentonville. Yeah.
And we have Graham from the UK here, and Linda Goslin from Massachusetts, I believe. We have a few familiar names, so welcome. Thanks for coming. I'm going to go ahead and kick this off. Today's event, we're going to be talking about the KX organizer bins. And this was requested from some of our customers. They sent a message to support@prostitcher.com and said, hey, I like the fabric bins you have for fat quarters, but what about this Kallax IKEA organizer? And I thought, well, that's very specific. But then the more I thought about it, a lot of people have organization systems in their sewing room or in their house, or, nightstands or playrooms or schools, etc. So ultimately we started drafting and designing and came up with this KX, stands for Kallax, but I didn't want to get in trouble with the IKEA folks. So the KX organizer bin. Jacob, if you could throw that link up there. The bin comes with 10 labels, I believe 3 blocks. And if you don't want to make the bin at all, it still also comes with 5 edge-to-edge designs, which you could also use on the bin. But Mary will tell us more about the construction. We did partner with Adam So Fun, who has some videos up on his YouTube channel showing us how he's made the bin. Mary's made it a little differently, and I'm probably 90% sure I also made it differently than both of them, because that's just how sewing works. So we're going to head over to Mary's demonstration, where she's going to show us the step-by-step. If you're interested in making it, please drop your questions in the comments. We're happy to help you sew through this not quite a quilted project. So, all right, take it away, Mary.
All right. Okay. And when I worked on my bag, what I used is I used a soft denim. So here's one that I did that isn't stitched yet. So what I used is I used a soft denim, and then I used the flex foam in between and backing. And I used the glide foot. I found that to work really well. And so when you set up your machine, I used a 60-inch wide fabric, and you want to make sure that you baste everything down real nicely. That's really important because you will be stitching and rolling back. And so what I did is, Jacob, if you could bring in my first picture. So what I did on my Pro Stitcher is I brought in the blank pieces of the bin. There are two parts to this. And so when you do this, it ends up being 26 inches is the height. I have the Amara 24, so I did have to end up doing a drag and drop. So what I did is I first stitched this out. So I had that all stitched out. And then what I did is, if you can put up picture 2, for the top, I'm now in the top area, and I created an area for the top part. Okay. And so then if you'll go ahead and bring in number 3 is here using one of the, because there are 5 different edge to edges that are in this pack. I brought in this edge to edge, and I did a wrap. I didn't want these, I wanted it staggered. So I did do a wrap, and then I did a stretch so it would fill in there perfectly. Make sure you baseline it. And then I went ahead and got that stitched out. So now if you'll go ahead and bring in number 4. Then what I did on the bottom, because I'm kind of lazy and I didn't want to like match up the edge to edge, then what I thought was, well, this is the bottom, so I'm going to just use one of the blocks. So this was one of the blocks that's included. And I just, again, created an area, brought in the block and skewed it, baselined it, and stitched it out. So here you can see this is one of those blocks. It really stitches out very pretty. You can see with that foam, the design really stands up. Now, if you want to,
we have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Gwenna, Dodie, I believe, maybe Dottie, wants to know who makes the flex foam.
I actually bought the foam from Joann's. I actually bought mine from Joann's, but I've used all kinds of the different foam. The by Annie one, there's so many different ones out there, and I've never had a problem with any of them.
I use a Soft and Stable by Annie's, but I have also been told you can buy headliner foam, which is the stuff on the roof of your car. If you go to an auto body shop, evidently they have foam. You can also maybe like fusible fleece or fleece, and then add layers of interfacing with it. We also have another question. Are you able to stitch the entire layout without rolling forward?
No, you have to do you will have to do a drag and drop. So like if you, Jacob, can you go back to picture 3? So here I did just the top section. So I was able to do just the top area. So I and you have to remember that I already had the blank part all stitched out. So then after I did the top, then I did a then I rolled up, got to the bottom, and then I created, actually I didn't even do a drag and drop because I did that one section, rolled it, and then created the area on the bottom.
And just place the square in place rather than cropping it and rolling it and making sure it was all lined up. You had just the edge to edge in one pass and then just the square in the bottom.
Yep. Because when I first sewed it, what you're first going to do is you're going to sew out your blank frame. You're going to sew out the top part. Then you'll do a drag and drop and sew out the bottom part. So then now you have your blank bin. So I hope that, hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I don't see any other questions. So hopefully that answered it.
Okay.
So sorry to interrupt you there. I just wanted to hit a couple of the quilting questions before you go on to the construction part. So
no, I'm glad you did. Thank you. Thank you. Also, in the pack, there is a block where you can add one of the labels. There's quite a few labels. So here I did scraps. I don't know if you read it backwards. If you want to use that in one of your blocks, then what you're going to do is, Jacob, if you could bring up number 5. So here is the block that I chose. And so then what you're first going to do is you're going to go ahead and bring in the empty one because it has an empty hole. And then you're going to bring in, if you'll bring up picture 6. So here now, then I added scraps, and I did have to resize it a little bit. And then if you go to modify, and if you go to align, using the alignment tools, I was able to center it, and then it put it right in the middle of my block. So it worked out really nice. And then you'll go ahead and, stitch those two things out. So that's how you'll bring up a label. There's also one for a blank where you can bring up, you can just leave it blank and add whatever you would like. All right. Now, if you'll bring up number 7. So this was the layout that I had if you did want to sew out a second one. And then this would work with 60-inch wide. You have to be really careful laying it out because the 60-inch really does give you plenty of room. Okay, so that's kind of what it's going to lay out. It's going to look out on your fabric. And then this is the one that I did. So this is with it off the machine. And then if you'll go ahead, Jacob, and bring up 8. So here is a picture of it, and it doesn't really show up pretty good, but this is the first one that I did. So this one has the edge to edge on the top, and then on the bottom you have that that second block. All right, I should have used like a really bright color. I actually used light blue. All right, so then go ahead and bring up number 9. So this is part of it up close. So you can see the top section is the edge to edge, and then the bottom one was that single block. All right. All right. Then what you're going to do, go ahead and Jacob, bring up number 10, please. So the way this has been designed, it is really neat. And so what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and bring up the one side, and then you'll stitch that. And I just use the edge of my foot. That worked out really nice. And you can see how it really has a really nice corner. So you're going to match that up. And then in the pack, Jen has provided really nice instructions. So there's instructions on all the completion. So then you're going to go ahead and you'll stitch the bottom. So then if you'll go ahead and bring up number 11. So this here, I stitched around the bottom and it just matches up perfectly. So you're going to go all around the bottom. And now if you'll go ahead and bring up number 11. So this is a picture of the inside of the bin. And you'll notice that it's a little bit round. And so what I did is in the front, on the outside, I pulled up the edge and I sewed down the sides. So if you'll bring up number 12. Oh. There we go. So I don't know how well you can see it, but I sewed down the edge, worked out really nice. And can you see how it kind of helps to stand it up real nicely? Even though you have to realize too, like once you have it in your little, in the wooden part, it really holds up really nice. So then what I did is what I did for my binding is I took a 3-inch piece and pressed that in half. And I wanted mine to match the outside. So I then stitched this to the outside of my bag. So what I did is I stitched it to the outside. And then you have two choices. One is you then can wrap it around and then stitch in the back is what you can do. Or what I did is I just pulled it to the back on mine. And I like the 3-inch because it makes it a little easier than a 2.5 would. So I found that to be a little bit easier. And then what I did is on mine, I stitched it to the inside. So you can see I stitched it down to the inside. And the other thing that you want to also do is, and I kind of thought about this after, is when you're planning this, think about your design, because you want to make sure that your design is going to be under that seam so that you're not cutting it off. So that was kind of a little pointer that I kind of learned as I went along. So Jacob, if you want to bring up the last picture, the number.
Real quick, I had a couple of questions. So you mentioned sewing on the side. There is only the one actual side seam on the bag, but you mean if Jacob, if you could just make her image there bigger, she's showing us the side. You sewed vertically,
yes,
along that to give it more structure. Then,
yep, I sewed all along the sides.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Have a neat little comment. Yes, I did on all the corners. Yeah, I just went down all the corners. And even where I had the seam, it wasn't a problem. Like for this one here, I did press it open, and then I had no problem at all. And this, as I said, this is a light denim, so it's a little heavier fabric too than just your normal cotton, and that worked out really well. All right. So did anybody have any questions? Oh boy, how much fabric did I use? I actually, so what do you need? Jen, do you know what that would be?
For
For two of them?
So it's in the pattern requirements. It's when you print off the instructions. It is 13 1/4 plus 13 1/4 plus 1/2 of an inch. So 2/3 of a yard plus another 2/3 of a yard plus 12 inches. All right, who's the math whiz out there that's going to chime in? I feel like it's going to be Patty. Anyway, but the in the instructions, it's listed in there. Oh, okay. So you said thank you, but also I don't know if my math answer was very good. So 48 plus, so 60 inches square, maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. One thing.
Then,
oh, go ahead.
No, and Lynn had a question about the seam on the bottom.
So it says her question is, so do you cover the exposed edges? Go ahead.
So I personally didn't, because I felt it looked neat enough. I knew, since a lot of us are quilters, I knew there would be the one that would want to do that. So you could put binding on the inside.
But well, so you mean the lining? So I don't know which photograph number it was where the bag itself is quilted and then cut out. It kind of looks like an awkward letter T there. Yeah, that's the one. Once you take it off the frame and trim along the guidelines, you can then use this as your lining pattern. You would assemble it the same way, and then just once the bin is completed, up to right before binding, you can just drop the lining in there. And there is a mention of it in the instructions as well. So yes. How many total bins did you end up stitching, Mary?
I made 2 of them.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
The other thing that I found too that I really like what Jen did is she did like a double seam. So if you look at this, there's actually a double seam. So when you stitch it, it's actually pretty clean because you can see how that edges. But
yeah,
you certainly
there's a cutting line and then a stitch it. So you can cut on the outside edge, and then that's kind of like a seam allowance guide in there.
Yes. And so it really ends up looking pretty clean. So I was actually fine with the way it was. And I just didn't really want to have to also do a lining, but you could certainly make a lining.
So there's one thing I wanted to mention to the quilters who are going to be making this and jazzing up and organizing their spaces is with that, with the block for the labels, it's kind of a frame with a little blank square in the center. If you go and if you use your area the way you showed and you use block skew, if it shifts, it will change how you put that label in there. But having said that, it shouldn't skew too much because it's a perfect square. You just quilted it. There's probably not any piecing, though there definitely could be. Oh, I can't wait to see those. Sorry, got distracted. So you can, if you use block skew and if it tilts your block a little bit, know that it will also affect your label when you go to place that in, if you're not doing it at the same time. And then there are 2 other quick things I wanted to mention. If you have a smaller throat space long arm, you can definitely still quilt this. You can grab the bundle if you just want the edge to edge designs even, or if you just want the labels for something. But if you're going to quilt this on a smaller frame machine, you can. What you'll need to do is take the 2 outline pieces. So there's the blank top and then a blank little bottom square. When you quilt those out, you will need to multiply them by the same percentage to make sure they shrink at the same rate to fit in your long arm. And that's a whole separate math discussion. Just know that it can be scaled. You just have to make sure you're multiplying by the same, 0.75. I think it might be 0.71. So I wanted to mention that. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is at the bottom. So I have this bag. When I took this bag off the frame, oh, you can't see it because of my, sorry. You still can't see it. Okay. You'll just have to believe me. I made a big bag. I made a giant bag. And when I took it off of the frame and got just the main body together, I thought, holy crap, this is the biggest thing I've ever seen ever. Is my math wrong? Did I screw this up? I cannot. Anyway, no, it's the math is right. It finishes at 12.75. It's just really, really big. So be prepared for that little shocker. It's significantly bigger than you think. And then on the bottom edge, when you're putting the corners together, when you're sewing the 3 sides of that bottom flap, you'll have Y seams. That's the only little trick, and that's also outlined in the instructions. So Mary has it easier to see because she doesn't have the background there. But at each corner, you stop just a little short, and it ultimately makes a Y seam, which gives you nice points at the bottom.
It's absolutely perfect. It really comes out perfect, because when I did it, I'm like, no, it really will stitch out perfect in that corner.
We have a question. Can you clear the area when you're setting the block and put just a new area for the label? Yes, definitely. And then when you skew that in place, it'll work fine. So we have a handful of questions for the folks making this, and I'm very excited to see the enthusiasm for it. I do know Pro Stitcher is going to release more edge-to-edge designs, but we do still have a few projects in the queue, and this is one of the big exciting ones for the new year. One thing, Mary is a featured designer on prostitcher.com. If you go to prostitcher.com and scroll to the bottom to meet the designers, you'll find Mary. And Mary, actually, we chose her to demo this bag because she also is an expert bag maker on the long arm. Jacob, could you put Mary's link to her Meet the Designers page up there? And Mary, can you show us the bags that you are well known for in the handy quilter community? She teaches classes around the country for these very cool customizable little bags.
So here's one of the little bags that I did. This is when you purchase them, how it'll look. This is kind of in a boring blue and white, just so you can kind of see the design. Oops. And the way I do, and then I also have this style, which is a really fun style. And the way that I have designed the bags is you'll stitch them on the long arm, and it'll have the shape like this. And then it's just ready for you. I have instructions that'll come with it. And then all you'll do is put the zipper in, sew up the sides, and you can make these bags in about a half an hour. And you can also resize these, and so you can make these in all different sizes. And also, somebody had a question about the cubes. You can also resize those. So you could also make those in different sizes. So I hope you'll check out my bags. I have I've had a lot of fun with these. And then I've also taught some Zoom classes. And then I've also taught in stores how to make those. So they're fun, a little addicting.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love seeing them in our Pro Stitcher Posse group or other, Instagram around town, hashtag Pro Stitcher Quilting, where folks are just, they have like 30 bags in front of them that they made that weekend. That's pretty amazing.
Yep.
So it looks like Kathy's made them, and she seems to like them. And thank you. And I think that's all we have for right now. We just wanted to give a little clear up for the organizer bin. Hopefully everybody's kicking off the new year with a nice clean studio. Hope lightning doesn't strike me when I say that. And I will be answering your questions in the comments. So if more stuff comes up, feel free to drop it in the YouTube comment or Facebook comment, and Mary or myself can get back to you.
All right.
Good. Okay. Thank you so much, Mary. Bye, everybody.